But I think it's such an important piece of the puzzle that it deserves a little more attention.
Absolutely. And, it's easy to mistake activity for progress.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
We can get so caught up in the busyness of life that we forget to ask ourselves, are we actually moving towards our goals?
Right? Like that hamster on a wheel analogy again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're running and running, but we're not actually getting anywhere.
So how do we make sure that our activity is intelligent activity? Activity that's actually moving us forward?
Well, it starts with planning,
Yep.
as we talked about before. Ron was a big advocate for writing down our goals, both short-term and long-range, making them specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound.
Smart goals.
Exactly. And then breaking those goals down into smaller action steps
Right.
and reviewing those goals regularly to stay on track.
I love that.
Yeah. And, he believed that writing things down made them more real. It's like
Mhm.
you're making a contract with yourself.
Yeah. And having that visual reminder of what you're working towards.
Exactly.
So, okay, we've got our goals written down. We have our plan in place. What else do we need to consider in terms of intelligent activity?
Balance. Ron was really big on this. He believed in following a rhythm of 6 days of labor and 1 day of rest.
Right.
He said that we can't be on all the time.
Yeah, we need time to recharge our batteries.
Exactly. And it's not just about physical rest, but also mental and emotional rest. Giving ourselves space to think, to reflect, to process, to dream.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with in today's world.
It's true. There's this constant pressure to be productive, to be achieving, to be doing.
Right. And it can lead to burnout.
Exactly. And when we're burned out, we're not effective. We're not able to do our best work.
So taking breaks is actually essential for productivity.
It is. And it ties into that philosophy of enterprise over ease.
Yeah, I remember that. He talked about how choosing action over inaction builds confidence and self-respect.
Right. And it's about finding that balance between pushing ourselves and giving ourselves permission to rest.
Yeah, I love that. And he talked a lot about discipline too, right?
He did. He believed that discipline is essential for achieving our goals. It's the bridge between our good intentions and our actual results.
It's that saying discipline equals freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The more disciplined we are, the more freedom we have to create the life we want.
Right, because we're not constantly being pulled off course by distractions and temptations.
And he had some great advice for building discipline.
What was that?
He suggested starting with something small,
Yeah.
something you've been putting off, and just doing it. Break that cycle of procrastination and build momentum.
Yeah, prove to ourselves that we can follow through.
Exactly. And then once we've mastered that small discipline, we can move on to bigger ones.
It's like building a muscle.
Exactly.
The more we exercise it, the stronger it becomes.
And he talks about how those small disciplines practiced every day can lead to extraordinary results over time. He uses the analogy of a snowball rolling down a hill. It starts small, but as it picks up momentum, it grows exponentially.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that we don't have to make these huge, drastic changes overnight.
Right.
It's about those small, consistent efforts that add up over time.
So it's not about perfection, it's about progress.
Exactly. And that leads us beautifully to the fourth piece of the puzzle, which is results.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we want to see that our efforts are paying off, right?
Absolutely. And it's satisfying to see those tangible results.
But Ron has some really interesting insights about how we should measure those results.
Yeah.
It's not just about those external achievements.
Right. It's not just about the money, the possessions, the accolades.
It's also about who we become along the way.
Exactly. It's about the growth, the learning, the transformation that happens on the inside.
So it's not just about what we have, but also about who we are.
Exactly. And he encourages us to consider two different ways to measure results. First, what we have, the material possessions, the financial security, the outward markers of success.
Okay.
And second, what we've become, our character, our relationships, our personal growth, the inner qualities that contribute to a fulfilling life.
I love that distinction.
It's about aligning our external achievements with our internal values and aspirations.
Yeah, it's about making sure that our success is holistic.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's often overlooked in our society. We tend to focus so much on external validation that we forget to cultivate our inner world.
Yeah, it's like we're chasing after things that don't ultimately matter.
Right. And we end up feeling empty and unfulfilled even when we achieve those things.
So Ron is saying that true success is an inside job.
Exactly. It starts with who we are at our core, and then that radiates outwards into all areas of our lives.
Okay, so how do we cultivate that inner success?
Well, it starts with our philosophy, making sure that our beliefs are aligned with our values and our goals. And then it's about developing our attitude.
Mhm.
Choosing to focus on the positive and to see challenges as opportunities for growth.
And then it's about taking action,
Ah,
engaging in intelligent activity that moves us towards our goals.
exactly. And as we do those things, we start to see results both internally and externally.
And those results then reinforce our positive beliefs and attitudes.
It's a beautiful cycle.
It is.
And it leads us to the fifth and final piece of the puzzle, which is lifestyle.
Okay, let's dive into that.
All right, so lifestyle is about how we choose to live our lives. It's about how we spend our time, our energy, our resources. It's about creating a life that is both fulfilling and meaningful.
And I think a lot of people have this misconception that lifestyle is all about luxury,
Yeah. Fancy cars,
Uh-huh.
big houses, exotic vacations.
Right. But Ron completely reframes that notion.
Yeah.
He emphasizes living a rich and fulfilling life now, regardless of our circumstances.
Exactly. He's saying that we don't have to wait until we're rich and famous to enjoy life.
Right.
You know, we can create a beautiful life for ourselves right now with what we have.
I love that. And he talks about how there are so many amazing things in life that are free.
Yeah, like spending time in nature,
Right.
connecting with loved ones.
Reading a good book.
Exactly. And it's about appreciating those simple pleasures.
Yeah, savoring the moment.
Right.
This reminds me of something he said about happiness. He said, happiness is not something you postpone for the future. It is something you design for the present.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
It's a reminder that we don't have to wait for something outside of ourselves to make us happy. Happiness is an inside job.
It is.
It's about choosing to focus on the good, the positive, the beautiful in every moment.
So, okay, if lifestyle is not about the amount of money we have, then what is it about? How do we create this rich and fulfilling life in the present moment?
It's about our attitude, our mindset, our choices. It's about how we choose to see the world and how we choose to interact with it.
Okay.
It's about those small daily decisions that shape our experience of life.
So give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you're having a meal at a restaurant and you're thinking about how much you're going to tip the waiter.
Right.
And you're kind of begrudgingly thinking, okay, I guess I'll leave 15%.
Right.
But Ron would say, approach it differently. Instead of waiting until the end of the meal and kind of throwing some money at the waiter, why not approach them at the beginning and say, hey, I really appreciate good service. My guests are very special to me, and I want them to have the best possible experience. Here's something to ensure they're well taken care of.
Right.
Yeah. It's a small gesture, but it can make a world of difference.
Right. It's about being intentional and proactive.
Exactly. And it's about bringing that sense of generosity and abundance into our everyday interactions.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's not about the money, it's about the mindset.
Exactly. And we can all choose to adopt that mindset regardless of our financial situation.
Yeah, that's so empowering.
It is.
It's about recognizing that we have more control over our experience of life than we often realize.
And that's really at the heart of Ron's message. It's about taking ownership of our lives, making conscious choices, and creating a life that is both successful and fulfilling.
I love that.
Yeah.
And he talks about the importance of being present. Yeah.
He does. He says that wherever you are, be there. It's about fully engaging in whatever we're doing, whether it's having a conversation, eating a meal, or taking a walk in nature. It's about being mindful and present.
Yeah.
Rather than letting our minds wander to other times and places.
Yeah, it's about savoring the moment.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most challenging but rewarding aspects of personal development.
It is. It's so easy to get caught up in that mental chatter, that constant replay of the past or worry about the future.
And it takes practice to quiet that chatter and to bring ourselves back to the present moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But the more we practice, the easier it becomes.
And the more we can enjoy those simple moments of life.
Right.
And he also emphasizes the importance of personal growth.
Yeah, he was a big believer in continuous learning, wasn't he?
Yeah. He said that formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. And he wasn't just talking about financial fortune. He was talking about the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that comes from continuous learning and personal growth.
So it's about constantly expanding our minds, exploring new ideas, developing our skills and talents.
Exactly. And that learning can come from so many different sources. It doesn't have to be formal education. It can be reading books, attending workshops, traveling, having conversations with interesting people.
It's about being curious.
Exactly. And about being open to new experiences.
I love that.
And, it's not just about acquiring knowledge and skills. It's also about developing our character, our values, our spiritual connection.
It's about becoming more fully human.
Exactly. More compassionate, more loving, more wise.
This is making me realize that lifestyle is not a static thing. It's a dynamic process of growth and evolution.
It is.
It's about constantly striving to become the best versions of ourselves and creating a life that reflects our deepest values and aspirations.
Beautifully said. And that's the true beauty of Ron's message. It's not about achieving some arbitrary definition of success. It's about creating a life that is uniquely our own, a life that is both fulfilling and meaningful.
It's about becoming the authors of our own lives.
Exactly. And it's a journey that never ends.
So how do we make sure that we're on the right path? How do we ensure that we're creating a lifestyle that is truly aligned with who we are and what we want?
I think it starts with self-awareness.
Mhm.
Taking the time to really understand ourselves, our values, our passions, our strengths, our weaknesses.
Right.
And then it's about setting goals that are aligned with those things.
And then it's about taking action.
Yes, taking consistent action, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable.
And then it's about being willing to adjust course along the way,
Right.
because life is always changing.
Exactly. And we need to be adaptable.
Okay, so I'm hearing a lot about personal responsibility here.
Absolutely. Ron's message is all about empowerment. It's about recognizing that we have the power to create the life we want.
I love that.
And that's a really powerful message, especially in a world where it's easy to feel like we're victims of circumstance.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in that victim mentality.
But Ron is saying that we have more control over our lives than we often realize.
So it's about taking ownership of our choices, our actions, our results.
Exactly. And about believing in our ability to create a better future for ourselves.
I love that. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Jim Rohn's 5 major pieces to the life puzzle. We've spent the last 2 parts really unpacking those first 4 pieces: philosophy, attitude, activity, and results.
And now we get to explore how all of those pieces come together to create a fulfilling and successful life.
Yeah, that's right. And that brings us to the 5th and a final piece of the puzzle, which is lifestyle.
And this is where the rubber meets the road. It's one thing to talk about these concepts, but it's another thing to actually live them out in our daily lives.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They might have a great philosophy, a positive attitude. They might even be taking action.
But if their lifestyle isn't aligned with those things...
Then they're not going to see the results they want.
Exactly. And lifestyle is about so much more than just our material possessions or our social status.
It's about how we choose to live our lives on a day-to-day basis.
It's about our habits, our routines, our relationships, our environment, everything that shapes our experience of life.
I love how Ron emphasizes that we can create a rich and fulfilling life right now, regardless of our circumstances.
Yeah, he's not saying that we have to wait until we achieve some arbitrary level of success or wealth.
Right.
He's saying that we can start living a beautiful life today with what we have.
And one of the ways we do that is by appreciating the simple things in life,
Yeah, the small moments of joy and beauty that we often take for granted.
like a walk in nature,
A good cup of coffee.
a conversation with a loved one.
Exactly. And it's about being present in those moments,
Yeah, savoring the experience.
rather than letting our minds race ahead to the next thing.
This reminds me of something he said about happiness.
Oh, what was that?
He said, happiness is not something you postpone for the future. It is something you design for the present.
I love that quote.
Me too.
It's a reminder that happiness is not some distant destination.
Right.
It's a choice that we can make in every moment.
So, okay, if lifestyle is not about the amount of money we have, then what is it about?
It's about our attitude, our
Right.
mindset, our choices.
Okay.
It's about how we choose to see the world and how we choose to interact with it.
So give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed,
Oh,
and you're tempted to just numb out with TV or social media.
right.
But instead, you choose to go for a walk in nature.
Okay.
You breathe in the fresh air, you feel the sun on your skin, you listen to the birds singing,
Yeah.
and you start to feel your stress melt away.
Right.
That's an example of how a small lifestyle choice can have a big impact on our well-being.
I love that.
And it's not about being perfect,
Right.
It's about making those small choices more often than not.
So it's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point to remember because it's easy to get discouraged when we feel like we're not living up to some ideal.
Yeah, totally.
But the truth is, nobody's perfect.
Right.
And the goal is not to be perfect, it's to be better than we were yesterday.
So it's about continuous improvement.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about life is that we're always evolving.
Yeah.
We're always learning and growing and becoming more of who we're meant to be.
And that's what makes the journey so exciting.
It is, and I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Jim Rohn's 5 major pieces to the life puzzle,
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
we have.
And I hope our listeners have gained some valuable insights and inspiration to help them create a life that is both successful and fulfilling.
Me too. And remember, it all starts with you. You have the power to create the life you want.
It's about taking ownership of your thoughts,
Yeah.
your attitudes, your actions.
It's about making conscious choices that align with your values and your goals.
It's about embracing the journey of personal growth, knowing that there's always more to learn and discover about yourself.
And it's about enjoying the ride.
Yeah, that's important too.
Life is meant to be savored, not just endured.
So true. So thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
And to our listeners, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. What resonated with you the most? What actions are you inspired to take? Share your insights in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to become the best versions of yourselves.